Welcome to Still and Quiet. Tonight's story is an original folk-style tale, told slowly, with long pauses and plenty of space to drift. If you're able, let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw loosen just a little. And let whatever today was be finished for now. There's nothing you need to hold in your mind. Nothing you need to solve. When you're ready, we'll begin. It was understood along the coast that the fisherman rose before the light did. Not because anyone demanded it, not because he was chasing anything. It was simply how the mornings had always begun, for as long as anyone could remember. The village slept longer than the sea. The village had doors and schedules and voices. But the water didn't keep a schedule. The water kept a rhythm. And the fisherman, having lived beside it for years, had quietly learned that rhythm until he no longer needed to think about it. He did not look at a clock. He did not measure the morning by minutes. He measured it by air, by the way the wind rested, by the sound of distance. Sometimes he woke to a hush. Sometimes he woke to a light movement in the trees. Sometimes he woke to the sea breathing in and out. And it was understood that there was no need to rush the beginning of a day that had not yet arrived. He lived in a small house set back from the shore. Not far, just far enough that the air tasted when the wind came from the land. Less like salt. The house had no grand name. It was the kind of place that existed for usefulness, not for being admired. Inside, the morning was simple. A lamp turned low, a cup warmed between hands, a moment of stillness while the body remembered it was safe. His tools were plain. A net mended more times than it had been new. A knife worn smooth at the handle. Rope coiled with care, because care was easier than fixing a mess later. Nothing about these things were dramatic. And that was their quiet comfort. He did not speak much in the early hours. There was no one he needed to explain himself to. The morning did not ask questions. The sea did not ask questions. And the fisherman did not ask questions of himself. He simply prepared in the same gentle order, day after day, until the preparation itself became a kind of calm. When he stepped outside, the air met him immediately. It was cool, clean, uncomplicated. The path to the shore was familiar enough that he could have walked it with his eyes closed, and sometimes it felt as though he did. Underfoot, the ground was firm. Here and there, damp in places that held night longer. The grasses were quiet. The trees did not move much. Even the birds, if they were awake at all, kept their sounds small, as if not wanting to disturb the dark. He could smell the sea before he could see it. The faint mineral scent, the salt, the suggestion of kelp and wet stone. And then the shore. Not as a destination, not as an arrival, simply as the place where the land stopped speaking and the water began. His boat rested where it always rested. Not proudly, not sadly, just waiting. The fisherman did not think of the boat as an object. He thought of it as a quiet companion. Something steady, something familiar, something that did not require conversation. He ran a hand along the edge of it, not checking, not inspecting, just touching something known. The water near the shore was darker than the water farther out. It held the night longer. And when the tide was low, the stones showed themselves, wet and patient. When the tide was high, the stones disappeared again, as if they never had been there. The fisherman liked this about the shore. Nothing insisted on being permanent. Things came and went without needing permission. He stepped into the boat carefully, not because he was afraid, but because carefulness was his way of being kind to the quiet morning. And then the boat moved, not fast, not with effort, but with the slow, reliable motion of water accepting what was set upon it. Out on the water, the world widened. The shore became a gentle line. The village became an idea. And the water became everything. The surface was mostly smooth, but never perfectly still. A small lift and fall. A quiet ripple moving outward until it softened into nothing. The sky above was dark, but thinning, as if someone were slowly turning down the black. Sometimes a star remained for a moment longer and then faded without drama. The fisherman did not stare at the sky. He did not ask for signs. He only noticed, in the way one notices a room becoming brighter without thinking about the lamp. The first light did not arrive all at once. It came in small changes. A little more definition at the edge of the waves. A softening of shadows that had been sharp only because the dark was complete. And then the water began to show what it had been holding. Reflections. Not mirror reflections, but gentle, brushed reflections, as if the surface were remembering the sky rather than copying it. The fisherman watched this without effort. Watching was not a task for him. It was something that happened when there was nothing else to do and no need to fill the quiet. When he set his nets, he did it slowly. He did it steadily. Rope sliding through his hands. The soft weight of the net settling into the water. The small sound it made when it disappeared below the surface. Then the waiting. The fisherman had never minded waiting. Waiting for him was not empty time. It was time that belonged to no one. Time that could not be taken away because it had not been assigned to anything. He sat quietly in the boat and let the water do what it would do. Sometimes the catch was small, sometimes it was enough. And sometimes the nets came up lighter than they went in. It was understood that the sea was not a machine. It did not respond to effort the way a machine does. It responds to seasons, to currents, to weather, to things no one could command. And because of that, the fisherman did not take it personally. There was, on one particular morning, a moment that people later spoke about. Not because it was loud, not because it was strange, but because it was quiet enough to remember. The air was still. The water had the look of brushed metal, soft and dark, with pale light gathering at the edges. The fisherman drew in his nets slowly and felt not a pull, not a struggle, but a calm, living weight, as if something had simply chosen to be there. When the net surfaced, there was a fish caught in the weave. Not huge, not small, just bright in the faint light, the way scales can catch the first morning and hold it for a moment. The fisherman looked at it with the same expression he gave to everything. Not triumph, not disappointment, just recognition. And the fish, in its own quiet way, was still. The fisherman did not rush. He did not hurry to finish the moment. He steadied the net and with careful hands began to loosen the weave. In tales of the sea, people often make the moment dramatic. They add a voice, they add a spell, they add a demand. But the people along this coast told it differently. They said the fisherman freed the fish because his hands knew how to free things. Because gentleness was his habit. And because the morning was too quiet to be broken by greed. So he lowered the fish back into the water. And the fish moved away, not with panic, not with celebration, just with the smooth motion of something returning to where it belonged. The fisherman watched the water close again. Watched the surface become what it had been a moment before. And then he sat back, as if nothing had happened. Because for him, nothing unusual had happened. Later, when the day had fully arrived and the village was awake, someone asked him about the morning. The fisherman did not make much of it. He said only that the sea had been calm, that the light had come slowly, that the water had looked the way it looks when it's deciding to become day. And that he had let a fish go. People, of course, wanted more. People always want the story to sharpen itself into meaning. But the fisherman did not give them that. He did not say the fish was enchanted. He did not say it granted wishes. He did not claim there was a lesson hidden in the net. He simply returned to his routine, as if the morning belonged to the sea, not the village. And in time, that became the tale. not a tale of magic, not a tale of punishment, a tale of a man who did not need more than the morning gave him. A tale of a quiet habit, a tale of still water continuing, whether anyone told stories about it or not. The sea remains. Steady. The shore remains. Patient. The mornings continue to arrive slowly, as they always have. The fisherman continues to rise before the light, not to chase the day, but to meet it gently. He walks the familiar path, he steps into the waiting boat. He lets the water carry him, the nets go down, and come up. In their own time. The air stays cool. The light stays soft. And there's nothing urgent in the way the sea becomes morning. If your thoughts drift, let them drift like a ripple. A small movement, widening, softening, and blending back into stillness. The fisherman doesn't follow the ripple. He doesn't chase it. He allows it to pass. And you can too. And the water continues, quiet and steady, as the night carries on. And you can rest whenever you're ready.